It's pouring rain on a Friday at 4 p.m., and my 17-year-old son, Tyler, is just walking our dog around the block when a black SUV screeches to a stop beside him. Two guys in uniforms with HOA community safety logos jump out, block his path, and get this, try to arrest him on the spot. They accuse him of trespassing on unregistered community land, yank the phone out of his hands when he tries to call me, and start dragging him toward their car. Their biggest mistake? Not knowing that Tyler's dad, the guy they're about to tangle with, is an FBI instructor who trains agents to handle real emergencies. I'm at home, grading papers, when my phone buzzes with a panicked text from Tyler's friend. HOA guys grabbed Tyler. My blood runs cold. I've spent 20 years taking down criminals, kidnappers, mob bosses, you name it, and now some HOA goons think they can mess with my kid? I grab my badge, my training kicking in like muscle memory, and I'm out the door faster than you can say federal investigation. These wannabe cops have no idea what's coming. I'm not just a dad on a mission. I'm a guy who teaches FBI agents how to outsmart the worst of the worst, and I'm about to turn their little power trip into their worst nightmare. What happens when a suburban HOA picks a fight with the wrong family? Buckle up, because this story's about to take a turn that'll leave you speechless. Let me paint you a picture of Ethan Brooks, a 48-year-old former FBI investigator turned instructor at the FBI Academy in Quantico. For nearly 2 decades, Ethan chased down the worst of humanity, busting kidnapping rings, unraveling corruption scandals, and dismantling money laundering operations that spanned continents. He once spent 72 hours straight tracking a cartel boss through a blizzard, earning him a reputation as the guy who never quits. After a close call left him with a limp and a promise to his wife, Laura, to step back, Ethan transitioned to teaching. Now he trains the next generation of agents in emergency response and special investigations, sharing the tricks that kept him alive in the field. He moved his family, Laura and their 17-year-old son, Tyler, to a quiet suburb in Virginia, hoping for a normal life where Tyler could focus on college applications and Laura could finally open her dream bakery. But normal didn't last long. The neighborhood's HOA, run by Lucille Harper, a woman who struts around in starched collared shirts with a pen tucked into her belt like it's a loaded pistol, had other plans. Lucille fancied herself a suburban CIA operative, enforcing rules with the zeal of a dictator. $50 fines for unapproved flower colors, $100 for excessive Halloween decorations. Ethan saw through her from day one, a petty tyrant drunk on power. She sent letters demanding he join the HOA, pay fees, and submit to her community standards. But Ethan wasn't about to bow to a clipboard warrior. "I've dealt with mob bosses," he'd chuckle, tossing her letters in the trash. "I can handle Karen with a vendetta." Lucille didn't take rejection well. She started nitpicking, fining Ethan for unauthorized lawn ornaments, a birdhouse Tyler made in shop class, and disruptive noise, their dog barking once at a squirrel. Ethan tried to keep the peace for Laura and Tyler's sake, but Lucille's obsession with control was about to spiral into something far darker. What happens when a former FBI hotshot faces a suburban dictator who thinks she's untouchable? Let's just say Lucille's about to learn a lesson in real authority, and it's not going to be pretty. The trouble started brewing 3 days before the incident, when Lucille sent a passive-aggressive warning to my inbox. Suspicious juvenile activity, complete with a blurry photo of Tyler flying his drone in our backyard. The email claimed he was potentially spying on neighbors and threatened a $500 fine if we didn't comply with HOA oversight. I rolled my eyes. Tyler's a 17-year-old kid with a hobby, not a secret agent. I ignored it, thinking Lucille was just flexing her clipboard muscles again. Big mistake. She escalated fast, planting a camera on a pole right in front of our house, claiming it was for public surveillance of non-compliant residents. When I filed a formal complaint with the city, citing privacy laws, her response was chilling. "You'll regret crossing the HOA." I thought she was bluffing, until less than 48 hours later, she proved she wasn't. That rainy Friday at 4 p.m., Lucille's so-called community enforcement team, a couple of wannabe cops in knockoff uniforms, rolled up in a black SUV and grabbed Tyler while he was walking our dog. They accused him of trespassing on community land, yanked his phone away when he tried to call me, and dragged him into the vehicle. No real cops, no Miranda rights, no legitimate reason, just a power trip under the pouring rain. Tyler, soaked and scared, didn't stand a chance against their intimidation tactics. I was at home, grading papers for my next FBI class, when my neighbor Mrs. Jenkins called, her voice shaking. "Ethan, they took Tyler. The HOA, they just threw him in a car." My heart stopped. I've spent years teaching agents how to handle hostage situations, but nothing prepares you for the gut punch of your own kid being taken. Lucille had crossed a line, kidnapping my son under the guise of HOA rules. She thought she could play vigilante, but she didn't know who she was up against. I wasn't just a dad. I was an FBI instructor with 20 years of field experience, and I was about to turn her little HOA empire upside down. What happens when a suburban tyrant messes with the wrong family? You're about to find out. I dropped everything and sprinted to my car, the rain slamming against my windshield as I peeled out of the driveway, my mind racing. The SUV was long gone, but I wasn't about to let that stop me. I pulled up the Life 360 app on my phone, thank God for Tyler's habit of never turning it off, and saw his location pinging at the edge of the neighborhood. They'd taken him to the so-called HOA Community Center, a fancy name for a renovated abandoned garage Lucille had turned into her personal headquarters. My blood boiled. This wasn't just a power trip anymore, it was an illegal detention, and Lucille was about to learn what happens when you cross an FBI instructor with a dad on a mission. I parked a block away, moving on foot to avoid detection, the rain soaking through my jacket as I approached the building. Using my phone, I tapped into a trick from my FBI days, hacking into their Wi-Fi network to access the security cameras. Lucille might have thought she was running a tight ship, but she wasn't prepared for someone who'd spent years teaching agents how to infiltrate criminal networks. The grainy feed popped up on my screen, and there was Tyler sitting in a chair, his hands gripping the armrests, while one of Lucille's goons interrogated him. "You were flying a drone with a camera," the guy barked, leaning in close. "That's a violation of HOA airspace privacy. Admit you were spying." Tyler, his voice shaky but defiant, shot back, "It's just a toy drone. I wasn't spying on anyone." My heart swelled with pride, but the rage was stronger. These clowns were terrorizing my kid over a toy. I needed more than a rescue. I needed to bury Lucille legally. I called my best friend, Dan, a prosecutor at the DA's office, filling him in as I recorded the camera feed. "This is kidnapping, Ethan," Dan said, his voice grim. "We've got her on false imprisonment, intimidation, and abuse of power." I activated an emergency response protocol I'd taught my students: secure evidence, log IP addresses, and prep for a civil lawsuit. Using a burner app, I traced the HOA's internal communications, pulling emails where Lucille bragged about teaching the Brooks family a lesson and securing compliance through enforcement. Every piece of evidence was a nail in her coffin. But I wasn't done. I needed to get Tyler out, now. I slipped around to the back of the garage, my training kicking in as I assessed entry points, my pulse steady despite the stakes. Lucille thought she could play cop, but she had no idea the kind of storm she'd just invited. What happens when an FBI instructor goes full mission mode to save his son? You're about to see a takedown that'll leave Lucille wishing she'd never picked up that clipboard. I slipped into the abandoned garage-turned-HOA headquarters through a side window, my FBI training keeping my movements silent as the rain pounded outside. But what I saw inside wasn't just Tyler tied to a chair. It was a stack of documents on a nearby table, still warm from the photocopier, that made my blood run cold. Lucille wasn't just playing suburban dictator. She was trying to register our HOA as a self-governing legal privilege community. A shady, illegal model the FBI had busted in Florida years ago for enabling vigilante justice under the guise of neighborhood safety. These weren't just petty fines. This was a full-on criminal operation hiding behind HOA rules. I crept closer, scanning the papers, and my stomach dropped. There was a detailed plan labeled Suppression of Noncompliant Groups, with photos of 6 families pinned to a board. Ours was at the top, a red circle around Tyler's face. Notes scribbled in Lucille's handwriting outlined how they'd already detained 3 other kids in the past year to set an example, intimidating their parents into silence. No one had dared to sue, fearing Lucille's wrath and her so-called enforcement team. But the real bombshell came when I found a background report on Lucille herself. She'd been fired from a small-town sheriff's office a decade ago for trying to form an unauthorized neighborhood militia to monitor citizens. The report cited her as delusional and a risk to public safety. She wasn't just a Karen with a clipboard. She was a wannabe warlord who'd been waiting for a stage like this to live out her power fantasies. As I untied Tyler, whispering, "You're okay, kid. We're getting out of here," I realized this wasn't just about saving my son anymore. Lucille had built a criminal enterprise dressed up as an HOA, using intimidation and fake laws to terrorize families into submission. She'd targeted us because I wouldn't bow to her rules, but now I had evidence of a much bigger scheme, one that could land her behind bars for years. I pocketed the documents, my mind racing with the implications. This wasn't a personal vendetta, it was a full-blown conspiracy, a civilian coercion ring operating right under the noses of a quiet suburb. I'd spent 20 years taking down criminals far more dangerous than Lucille, but this hit different. She'd threatened my kid, my neighbors, and the very idea of safety in our community. What happens when an FBI instructor uncovers a suburban crime ring hiding in plain sight? You're about to see a takedown that'll make Lucille wish she'd never picked up that gavel. I kicked open the door to the HOA's makeshift interrogation room, my FBI instructor badge hanging around my neck, still in my training uniform from Quantico, black tactical gear with Federal Training Authority stitched across the chest. The room froze. Lucille's fake community safety team, 3 guys in cheap uniforms that looked like they came from a Halloween clearance bin, gaped at me, their hands hovering awkwardly near their fake badges. Tyler's eyes lit up with relief as I stormed in, but Lucille, standing by a whiteboard with her enforcement plan, didn't flinch. "You have no authority here," she snapped, clutching her gavel like a weapon. "This is HOA jurisdiction." I smirked, pulling out my phone. "Let's see about that." I hit play on a live call with Dan, my prosecutor friend at the DA's office, his voice booming through the speaker. "Everything you've done is being recorded, Ms. Harper. False imprisonment, impersonation of law enforcement. Your operation is done." Lucille's face turned ghost white, but she doubled down, pointing at me. "You're trespassing on HOA property." That's when Ruth, her loyal HOA treasurer who'd been scribbling notes, threw down her pen, her voice trembling. "You said this was legal, Lucille," she cried, tears streaming. "You made me help you. I trusted you, and now we're criminals." Lucille's jaw dropped, her authority crumbling as Ruth's betrayal hit harder than any handcuffs could. I didn't wait for her to recover. "Release my son now," I ordered, my voice cutting like a blade. The goons hesitated, then untied Tyler, who ran to my side, still shaking but safe. I seized their security cameras, pulling the SD cards as evidence of their illegal detention. Within 20 minutes, the real cavalry arrived. Local police sirens wailed as 3 DOJ investigators stormed in, badges flashing. "Lucille Harper, you're under arrest for false imprisonment, impersonation of law enforcement, and conspiracy," one announced, cuffing her as she stammered. "This is outrageous." Her fake enforcement team was rounded up, charged with impersonation and assault, their plastic badges confiscated as evidence. The room erupted in cheers from the neighbors who'd gathered outside, their fear replaced by triumph as Lucille was dragged out in cuffs, her gavel clattering to the floor. The HOA was shut down on the spot, its enforcement squads disbanded for good. I hugged Tyler tight, whispering, "You're safe now." Lucille had thought she could play cop, but she'd picked the wrong family to mess with. What happens when an FBI instructor takes down a suburban crime ring? You get a reckoning that'll echo through Oak Ridge for years. That night, the local news lit up with the story. Tyler was hailed as a brave victim, while I was dubbed the dad who upheld justice for his community. Oak Ridge celebrated their newfound freedom as the HOA faced a reckoning. 11 families banded together, filing a class action lawsuit against the HOA for false imprisonment, intimidation, and civil rights violations, using the evidence I'd gathered to back their claims. Lucille was hit with 8 charges, including conspiracy to form an illegal paramilitary group, her dreams of suburban dominance crumbling as she awaited trial behind bars. Her community safety team was disbanded, their fake badges now exhibited in a federal case. The neighborhood didn't stop there. They voted unanimously to dissolve the HOA entirely, replacing it with a new residence council backed by the city's legal support, ensuring no one like Lucille could ever take over again. Kids played in the streets without fear of fines, and neighbors waved hello with genuine smiles. The shadow of HOA tyranny lifted at last. I returned to Quantico with a new lesson for my FBI trainees. The law isn't just for catching bad guys, it's for protecting good people from those who think they are the law. My students hung on every word, knowing I'd lived it firsthand. Oak Ridge wasn't just a suburb anymore, it was a community reborn, stronger for the fight we'd won together. A few weeks later, Tyler went back to school, the trauma fading like a bad dream. He channeled his experience into a speech for a statewide contest, civil liberties, standing up, and won first place, his voice steady as he recounted the day the HOA tried to silence him. Our house became a quiet symbol in Oak Ridge, not for the arrest, but for the stand we took when it mattered most. The neighbors came together, painting a mural on a shared fence. "We the People HOA," a permanent reminder of the power of community over tyranny. One sunny afternoon, as we watered the garden, Tyler looked up at me, his eyes curious. "Dad, were you ever scared?" he asked. I paused, then answered honestly, "Yeah, I was. But silence scares me more." He nodded, understanding more than most kids his age ever would. We stood there, father and son, the garden hose dripping as the flowers bloomed under our care. A simple moment of peace where the law had truly served justice, not some self-appointed dictator's power trip. Lucille was gone, her name a cautionary tale, while Oak Ridge thrived, a testament to what happens when you fight for what's right. Ever faced a bully who thought they were the law? "Tell me your story," I want to hear how you stood up and won. If this wild story of an FBI instructor taking down a rogue HOA had you cheering, hit that like button and share it with anyone who's ever dealt with an overzealous neighbor. Subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss more epic tales of justice, petty revenge, and suburban showdowns that'll keep you hooked. I want to hear your stories in the comments. Ever had an HOA or a Karen try to play cop with you or your family? Spill the tea. Your story might just inspire my next video, and I'd love to tell it. Let's keep standing up for what's right together.